So today we're going to be going into the whole idea of how to construct a human figure using some of these geometric essence concepts that we've been talking about. So one of the things I want to emphasize before we jump into this exercise, into this drawing, is that the concept for the human figure, it can change and it can be simply what you want to bring to it. Some people want to see the human head at certain angles. They want to see it as a big egg. Other people, when drawing the human head, they want to see it as, let's say, they want to see it as a square, as a cube when viewed in 3 dimensions. It's up to you as the artist to come up with your own geometric essence shapes for the drawing of the figure that you're working on. But I wanted to give you a few examples from art history to show you a little bit about what artists did all the way back as far as the 16th century. And then I also want to show you how I use it in my own work so that you can see how I take these concepts, roll it over to my own work, and then we're going to jump into the drawing. So in this drawing right here, one of the things you'll see, this is Luca Cambiaso. It's in the 16th century. He's in Genoa. And one of the things that you'll see is that Luca has reduced the human figure to the most basic geometric shapes. There's no effort expended whatsoever on, like, let's say, I don't know, trying to figure out where the ribs are and how the ribs turn, or where the collarbone might be, the clavicle. He has no desire to do that. There are no facial features, because he just wants to see the human form in its most basic, fundamental, conceptual state. He doesn't want to have anything distracting him from the big picture. It's a really incredible drawing, actually, because it may not look like it, but you could actually take the problems that he's figured out with form, with shape, with the light hitting the form. You could take this and you could roll it over and have a really beautiful painting. One of the things you'll see if you zoom in and you look at, like, let's say the head that's holding the figure, that head holding the figure is, the light breaks clean from the top plane to the side plane. When we go over here to the figure on the side, the light to shadow shape, it breaks clean at the side of his head. So that's one of the things as an artist we want to really grow adept with. We want to be able to light our subjects, but to know where our shadow shapes, where the plane changes are, where the shadow shape will be, and to break it clean. And that's exactly what Luca Cambiaso did here. So that's for really going into in detail in an upcoming lesson. But for today, I want you to just dwell on the fact that these very complex Renaissance paintings with many moving parts, they were oftentimes simply masked out through geometric concepts like we see here. Not every Renaissance artist used the same geometric concepts. They varied. Michelangelo would sometimes have the forearm in his painting, and the forearm seen as being an egg, and the wrist area right here would be somewhat of a cube. So it would almost be like a cube inserting itself into an egg. For Luca Cambiaso, he chose to see most everything in terms of cubes, one inserting right into the other. So now I'd like to show you a little bit about how I use it in my own work. This is just a comical drawing. I did it really quick one day while I was sitting in a coffee shop. Cell phones were pretty new. This is about, like, probably, I want to say it was about probably 20 years ago. And everyone had a flip phone. And all of a sudden I went from not being able to be reached by anybody to being able to be reached by everybody. And so I felt like I was getting eaten alive by my cell phone. And these new things called texts were going through, and people were sending me messages when I might otherwise have been alone. So I took the basic ideas of geometric essence that Luca Cambiaso actually has in his work, and I rolled it over. That cell phone is nothing more than, essentially, it's like one cube, or you could say it's 2 cubes on a hinge point. And then for my feet sticking out of there, they're just nothing more than cylinders. You could even say that my foot within the pant leg is a cylinder within a cylinder. I chose to see that foot kind of like recoiling on the upper part. That's almost like I would say it's a cube. Jumping over to my head, My head would probably be thought of as, I can't remember what I was thinking of at that moment, but I probably chose to see that head as being an egg. I chose to see the fingers as being like little cubes. So again, there's no one solution to seeing the human figure, but rather we can have composite ideas. So why am I saying all this? Because I want you to see not only the concept that we're about to do in a moment, but I also want you to see where all this can go in your own work. You can use this in many media in far-flung ways. It's not restricted to pencil and paper with graphite, but you can use this. You could use this concept if you were building floats for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade or whatever that parade is. You could use this to actually rough out the balloons for those floats, the balloons that are 65 feet tall. The concepts that we use right here are used in all of the arts. I'm good friends with a Pixar animator who took me on a tour of the inside studios of Pixar. And when I was in that tour, one of the neat things was I said to him, I was like, so you're really high up at Pixar. What is it that you look for as a company in your artists? And he said, classical training really makes a great conceptual animator, really makes a great, someone who's great at lighting and animation. And it was so interesting to me that the multimedia application of the geometric essence concepts, as we're going to see in just a moment. So jumping over to our page, let's take a look at, let's kind of rough out like an idea of what this shape might be for us. So we're going to do just a man standing there kind of in 3/4 position. And the first thing I'm going to start out with is a cube. And the cube is going to be a bit longer, a bit wider, I should say. Not so deep. And okay, so that is roughly speaking my torso of my figure right here. I'm not doing any of the classic like 8 heads tall or anything like that. I'm just kind of getting comfortable with the whole idea of a shape. So at the base of this cube man that I'm about to do, at the base of the neck, we could just like kind of like map out like where a square might land. I'm going to put mine a little bit more in the front. And I'm not going to get too detailed. It just comes up vertically, even though necks don't really come up truly vertically. Necks kind of go out. But I'm having my guy with a neck that kind of goes up vertically. I want to keep all the problems very simple. I'm going to give him a long neck, because why not? And then, you know what? I'm going to, on top of that neck, I'm going to do another cube. So this guy is going to be in a pretty boring position. I don't want to do anything elaborate at all in here. I just want to keep the position very dry so that we're not intimidated, overwhelmed by like, you know, some like really dynamic composition or anything like that. So I'm going to erase away some of these construction lines so we get a better idea of what it is we're looking at, so we're not so confused. There is his chin right there. Now, you might be confused by all the stacking that's going on right here. So what I'll do is I'll do a little blowout, maybe not of everything, but where it gets a little confusing. So there's a cube right here. That is his head. And then I'll do another cube right here. That is his neck. So if you know how to do a cube, we're just simply stacking the cubes on top of each other. Okay, so now let's give this guy... we'll give him his lower torso right here. And again, this is a very dry position. So this is his pelvic area, I should say. And then beyond the pelvic area, we're going to go, let's go with a tapered cube. So it's going to kind of start wide and then taper in a little bit. If you want to look through the figure, it's as if you could see this top of the cube right here. That's going to be erased away. And then I'm going to draw another tapered cube down here for the next leg. I haven't done a perfect job right here. It could have been a little bit more in the middle. I don't really care, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to do a blowout of what these legs are and how I'm finding these shapes. These two legs, both of them, are nothing more than a cube stretched out like that. So pretty much if you jump up here, it's the same thing. So it's a cube stretched out, just elongated. Okay, so for the knees, we're going to skip the knees for a moment. We're going to put in the mass of the lower leg, and then we'll put the knees on top of that. So for the knees, for the low leg, maybe we'll get a little bit more detailed, where we're going to almost give the feeling of like it's almost like a bowling pin squared off, upside down. So here would be a bowling pin upside down. We're going to square that bowling pin off. So if you're confused by this, I think by seeing it, it'll make sense after a little bit. So there is the one leg, there is the other. And then for the feet, let's keep it super, super basic. We're just going to do triangles that are, in essence, they're almost like little cubes themselves, but I'll explain what that is. It has cube-like qualities. Okay, so you have your upside down bowling pin, kind of squared off right here. And then if you think of a triangle in 3 dimensions, it's kind of like that. Now take that triangle and you spin it down, and it looks like this. And then the bowling pin inserts into that right there. None of this is so accurate. There's no need to if you are having difficulty on any of this right here, you could continue and double up and put just another stretched cube. I'm just trying to give you a little bit more information down here to break up the upper leg from the lower leg. All right, so now let's go on to the arm. The arm is going to be nothing more than yet another cube. Now this cube is kind of on its side, and so I'll do a blowout right here. It's as if we have a cube seen on its side. So that's as if it's the arm right there. If you were to see through this, it'd be kind of like that, but I'm not going to draw all those construction lines. It's going to get it'll look like visual clutter at a certain point. So I'm just going to let it just be right there. I think I made my arm a little bit too short, so I'm just going to stretch it a little bit more right here. Okay, so that is the upper arm right there. Now the lower arm, we're going to do the same thing. It's just another cube. And I'm just going to simply turn it at this angle right here. We could be a whole lot more elaborate down the road. We just don't need to be right now. And then for the hand, I'm going to stick the hand out at this angle. I'm just making this up as I'm talking to you. And it's another cube at this angle. So if you look at that cube, that would kind of be like a box. Here's the hand. It'd be a cube kind of at that angle. So again, we're just taking all these cubes and we're just stacking them. So if you wanted to, you could put a thumb in. I wouldn't recommend doing more than one thumb. I mean, more than one finger. Just a thumb. I wouldn't go into individual fingers. That's his thumb right there. And you can even make that into somewhat of a cube. Jumping over to this arm, we're going to do something similar right over here. We'll make this arm kind of coming out a little bit more. It's a cube. Comes out like that. I'm going to erase away some of my demo from before. And then I'm going to bring the arm up here. I don't really care how these joints meet too much because I could always come up with something clever down the road. Okay, so there's the upper arm. And then let's have this arm kind of like in a fun way, just like kind of twisted in a little bit. Okay. Here's his hand. And the thumb is sticking out like that. That right there, I know in looking at that, as you, the viewer, look at that, there's nothing special about it. But you can start to do things. You can put like a line for where the chest, the upper part of the rib cage turns. You could put a line for, like, let's say the thoracic arch. You could put a line for different things. Let's say a line for like the navel area right there. There are different markers that you can land, like let's say for the nose or for the mouth or for the eyes or something like that, where you could start to make it feel like, I'll say human-ish, definitely not like not something that will move beyond the geometric realm. But the whole point of this is for you to see how you can come up with very elaborate compositions just by massing in a figure like that. And in an upcoming lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to take this figure and we're going to develop it and turn it into an actual figure. There'll be more time involved with that, but I just want to show you, by wrapping up this lesson, how to light this to really pull out the maximum depth. And so we have right here our man. Let's put some light to the upper side right here. So here's our light bulb. Light is shining down on this man. And what I'm going to do, this is really crude, really quick, but I encourage you to not have a fancy, elaborate drawing at this stage of your drawing. I'd prefer that my students at this stage see things in actually pretty raw, elementary terms, rather than highly developed, elaborate. There's no need for for anything fancy right now. Now, if I were to be drawing a figure in this funny position, this is the lighting that one type of lighting that I would choose that would maximize the form. As that leg is a little bit more complex, I'll just throw light on the side, shadow shape on the side. I've chosen 2/3 light, 1/3 shadow. Again, you could go into much more elaborate information here. You could go in and you could put in kneecaps and things of that sort. I'm not really so concerned with anything like that at this point, because I prefer that you take this whole idea and then you kind of like go different directions with it. Like perhaps what you do is you have him bending over and crying. You have a woman with her hands up like that. It's up to you, but now you have the building blocks. And if you understand geometry, you can start spinning shapes. So with that, that's the end of our lesson. I look forward to taking this concept and developing it further, because today we've tapped into something. You've done a lot of hard work to get to this point. You've really studied geometry. There's some certain amount of drudgery in that, but now you're at a place where you can start applying it and the creative world just opens up. Again, from animation to doing huge sculptures, Mount Rushmore was created with these concepts that you see right here. So the whole world of creativity just starts to open up. And I'll close with a quick little anecdote about C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis has a short segment that he wrote on learning Greek. And Greek for him was drudgery, and he hated it. It was like, oh, it was just so difficult. It was awful. But then when he actually started to read the poets, the historians, he started to read of these epic battles and mythologies and ships in the Mediterranean, the world of the Greek language opened up. You're right on the cusp of that right now, where you're taking the hard work that you did before, learning how to conjugate things and, take words and just get them into your system by rote. But now you can start applying meaning to it and going really fun directions with it. So with that, I look forward to all that is to come. And I want to thank you guys for staying with the lessons thus far, and I look forward to everything.